Cassia, I'm super excited to have you on. I admire you as a person to begin with. So I just know that the conversation we're going to have today is going to be impactful and important for several people. So happy to have you here.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm excited to chat with you.
Yeah, for sure. Well, let's start with how long have you been married and how did you meet your husband, Cory?
Yeah, so we have been married about 15 years. It'll be 15 years in August, which is crazy.
Congrats.
Thank you. Yeah. We met in college at North Park University in Chicago. We met like day 3 of like before classes even started in the cafeteria. We both knew the same girl somehow, and so plunked down next to her on either side of her. And over the course of like a 2-hour conversation, she had to get up and move because we were just like having this like really intense theological conversation. She's like, I'm in the way.
Do you remember the topic?
Oh, we talked about different religions. We talked about, it was kind of all over the place. Everything. I don't know if we were trying to outdo one another, but like it was a lot of like, did you consider? So anyway, it was a lot of fun. But we got to be really good friends after that and got married after our sophomore year.
Yeah.
Which is young. Which I wouldn't recommend for most people, but was really good for us.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Yeah. What was it that first attracted you to Cory?
Honestly, that he loved Jesus, which is a very Christian answer. So please don't roll your eyes at me. I liked a different guy in college, and then just kind of realized that their faith backgrounds were taking 2 very different directions. And so I just kind of like gravitated over to Cory, and he was really intentional with me really early on. We just got to be really good friends. And yeah, started dating pretty quick.
Yeah. But you didn't friend zone him. You were friends without the friend zone.
It was all very quick, but like, yeah, there was probably about a 3-week period where I was like, I'm not sure. He's like, I like you. I'm like, oh, okay. I'll think about it.
I'll get back to you.
I'll get back to you. I'm very busy. No, but we just got to be really good friends. Like we had a group of us that would spend like on average 4 hours a day together. So it was like a relationship pressure cooker, essentially, just kind of forced you deep quick.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, and I think also getting married young forces you deep quick because you don't have stable jobs. You don't have, like you had 2 more years of college.
We did.
But you were married.
Which forced us into needing jobs real quick. I mean, the government smiles on people who get married young, apparently. Like we were both eligible for a lot more in grants. So that was very helpful. But
that's nice.
But it also forced us into, needing to get jobs quick. So I wound up with an internship downtown Chicago. He wound up with a bunch of jobs around campus, and I don't know. It definitely matured you a lot quicker than the normal college experience. So.
Yeah. You made it work.
Yeah, it was good. It was really good.
I know. I feel Rob, my husband is 2 years older than me, but I was in the middle of my junior year when we got married.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So it was a little different because he was a soldier, so he did have a job.
Oh, that's right. I remember that.
This whole thing, but I still feel like I grew up way quicker than my peers.
Yeah.
Because I was married and I had to like figure out married stuff and no longer the support of my parents.
Yeah.
They probably would have, but I was like, no, we're going to figure it out,
Yeah.
So you just kind of, you figure it out.
Yeah.
So y'all married. Yeah. So y'all were married about 5 years before you
started having kids. Yeah. So we got married in 2010, and we actually had 2 miscarriages in like right before our oldest son. So our oldest son was born in 2015, but we'd had 2 miscarriages right before him. So even up till the birth, both of us were kind of like, I don't know if he makes it. Wow. Like we were both just kind of walking into that. Like when Keller was born, he was purple, and Cory was convinced he was dead for probably the first, how those first few minutes, like just everything seems so much longer. But he was like convinced that Keller was dead. And we had stillborn, and I was like, why aren't you, like, I'm crying because I just had a baby. And he didn't do anything, and he just stood there, and I was like, what is your deal? Like, we just had a baby, and it was because he thought he had died. So I think that those two miscarriages early on also kind of helped move us deeper together, but also deeper with the Lord faster, if that makes sense. Like, we had to wrestle with things like, God, I asked you to keep my babies safe. I asked you to protect them. I asked you to help them grow, and they're both dead. Like that was a hard thing for me to process through and to wrestle through. And so once Keller was born, I think both of us were just kind of like, definitely very gun shy those first few months. Like, okay, are you going to be okay? Like, are you going to be? And he was the easiest, sweetest baby. He was a good starter child. Does that make sense? Can you call him that? Probably not.
He's your kid.
Starter kid. But he was a good initiation into parenting. He's a sweet boy.
There's a lot of people struggling with their fertility right now.
Yeah.
I'm hearing more. I have a dear friend. They're trying so hard.
Yeah.
And she's had one miscarriage. And so I didn't even know that was part of your story.
Yeah.
How did you reconcile through, God, I prayed for these children and for them to be healthy, and why did this happen?
And I'd love to give you a nice little bow on top answer. And here's why it was fine that my children died. Like, I don't have that. I think in the ways that the Lord has been walking me through these different, problems around my kids, like, I think an earlier version of myself trusted God because of something. I trusted him to keep us safe. I trusted him to protect my children. I trusted him to, X, Y, Z. And I think through these things, he's teaching me to trust him, period, full stop. If that makes sense. It's not because he has always made sure that everything has gone to the way that I expected or I wanted. Mm-hmm. But I've seen his goodness in those stories and in that heartbreak. And I think that's kind of what's kept me on. After we had the two miscarriages, I was really angry with God, I was really frustrated and grieving a lot. And we would have people come up to us, because we didn't tell anybody. We didn't, miscarriage was still, I don't know, people weren't talking about it. And I think that's still true now. But we would have people come up and be like, so when are you guys going to have kids? How come you haven't had any babies? I mean, it's been 5 years. I was working full time. Cory was working full time. It was like, what's going on? And I remember that just being devastating. Like, I don't know if I can. Like, I keep getting pregnant, but I keep losing them. And so I got it in my head. Here's how I will solve this. I'm going to make a quilt naturally. Naturally. This is not my skill set. I like making things, like quilts have to be very perfect, and it takes a lot of meticulous lining up of things. This is not my skill set. But my mom got me a sewing machine, and I sat and I worked on a baby quilt, and I just used that time to give the whole situation back to the Lord, to pray over this quilt, because I assumed I was going to be giving it away to somebody. I was praying for the mom that was going to use it, the baby that would sleep under it, things like that, just that they would be cared for and would experience the goodness of God. And it was really healing. And that quilt turned out to be Keller's baby quilt. It was just a very sweet full circle. And he used that time of just sitting in the grief, sitting in the frustration. I think that has been a lot more of my story than God putting nice, pretty bows on top of things. A lot of times he just leads me into seasons of sitting in the frustration, sitting in that grief, and not putting a nice bow on top.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you had your two miscarriages.
Yeah.
Keller.
Then
you got pregnant again.
I got pregnant again with another boy.
Did you want girls and then kept getting pregnant with boys, or?
I don't know. I think like, so this is a girl. I don't know, after 3 boys, I had, Keller, Elin, and JoJo. I don't know. I was like, okay, I'm done. Like I'm a boy mom. The end. End of story. And like I get boys make sense to me. Like fart is always funny in our house.
Hilarious.
Always funny. And so, no, I don't feel like either of us had any like, we need to have a girl by any means. Good boy parents.
We were satisfied.
Very, very cheerful with our boys.
Yeah. So what was it like to get pregnant the second time with Elin? So now you'd had like, Keller was good.
Keller was good. Keller was easy. Healthy. He started out easy, developed a very large personality. So he's been, a sweetheart. He's been a lot of fun. Elin, I don't know. I remember right before we had Elin, thinking like, God, things are too cushy. Things feel really easy right now. Like we were just in this really sweet season of like, I was working part-time and Cory was working full-time at a church. And, we had our sweet little boy. We had just moved into this beautiful little home in Elgin, Illinois. And things were just really good. And I just remember getting very existential and being like, God, have I just bought into the suburban dream? Like, are you going to do anything with me? Like, what's your plan here? Because I don't want to just settle into what's comfortable. Like, I started reading a lot of books or listening to a lot of things by Elizabeth Elliot and being like, God, call me. Let's go. Let's go to a jungle somewhere. And
I will leave this all.
I will leave pregnant with my, toddlers. This is going to be so good. What a great plan I have. And just feeling restless. Like, what is your plan? And little did I know, like, I was cooking Elin, and Elin, I don't wonder if that wasn't part of the answer to that.
Like God putting an anticipation on your heart of something about to happen.
Yeah, I think so.
And then what happened?
So Elin was full term. We brought him home with us. 39, he was born at 39 weeks. We didn't do any time in the NICU. He was, by all accounts, healthy pregnancy. The only thing they noticed in the hospital was that he kept failing his hearing test, which is super common because, babies get fluid behind their ears. And so they were like, oh, it's okay. Like I had dropped a fork near him and he'd startled real bad. So we're like, he can hear. Like, but then over the next few months, like he just kept failing hearing tests and they were getting more robust. And at about 3 months, we noticed like he still wasn't tracking. Like my friend had a baby about 3 weeks before me, and I remember sitting with her and her little girl, and she's just looking at her, and baby is looking right at mom, and I was like, man, Elin doesn't do that even a little bit. Like, I don't think he can see my face. And right about then, I took him to the doctor. They were running a bunch of tests, and the doctor noticed that his soft spot on top of his head had fully closed, which it shouldn't do at 3 months. We need more time for the brain to grow. So about this time, I think, so he was born in October. This was like January. 3 different doctors called in MRIs. So we went downtown Chicago to Lurie Children's Hospital, and we did 2 separate MRIs on him. And that was in the end of January. And 2 weeks into February, we went in to meet with a neurologist. And she showed us, like she had a screen like this, and she showed us pictures of Elin's brain. And it was, even from like a layman's perspective, it was like, oh, there's a lot of black there. Like you could see the tissue, but there was a lot of water. Like there wasn't a lot of brain there. And so she told us that in utero, Elin had had a very specific malformation to a very specific gene. So this gene is like responsible for like the development of the tissue. If you think of it like the scaffolding for the brain tissue to develop, that had a malformation. So the brain tissue had never developed. Like you and I, our brains look like spaghetti. So there's a lot of surface area. But he has whole patches that are smooth. because that tissue never developed, or sections within his brain is just water because the tissue never developed. And so while we were sitting there having this conversation with her, she all of a sudden picks up the phone and starts calling somebody because he had apparently had a really dangerous kind of seizure in her office. It's called infantile spasms. That's a whole thing. But anyway, so she immediately sent us to have an EEG done, which is like a full brain scan. I'm like handing my 4-month-old over to a technician so she can hook him up with a bunch of wires and goop and then wrap him up. And they're trying to check and see if he in fact did have the specific electrical signature for infantile spasms, which he did. So he's immediately put on a bunch of seizure medications. So we came home. That was mid-February. In March, I was sitting upstairs in our attic working. He was right next to me, and I noticed that it was like somebody had taken their pinky in his mouth and just kept pulling it to the side over and over again. Like involuntary, he's doing like this over and over. So we called the neurology team, and they're like, you must come in. We need to see what's happening. And we spent about a week in the hospital and realized that he'd lost his ability to swallow, probably from those seizures. I think over time we realized that when he would have these epileptic events, he'd lose his ability to swallow. So while we were there, they immediately put a tube into his nose. He wasn't allowed to breastfeed anymore, wasn't allowed to nurse. We had to do everything via his nose.
From that point forward? From
that point, yeah, he's still 100%. Now it's out of his nose, it's in his belly. He's got a port, so he's 100% G-tube fed. So yeah, it was rough. Like over those 2 appointments, we learned that what had been our sweet baby, right? Mm-hmm. Like he's got microcephaly, he's got epilepsy, he's functionally blind. He's got something called CVI, so his optic nerves are about 1/3 the size they should be. He's got bilateral hearing loss, not entirely, but he's missing hearing in both ears. They couldn't tell us at that time, but they're like, he probably will be nonverbal or will have very limited communication. He has never developed the ability to sit or roll or anything. Everything about him has to be somebody doing it for him. And yeah, it was a really dark season of trying, like, we thought this was bad. Oh, wait, there's so much more. Oh, wait, there's so much more. Oh, wait, it was just like, yeah, we just kept finding out more and more things like about his situation. And obviously, like, that's going to cause stress on any individual, let alone a young couple trying to
100%
trying to navigate it. So.
How did you navigate it? Like, how did you navigate it with your marriage? Did it increase stress and increase disagreements?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, because, I think as soon as you add kids to any relationship, that's already going to be well, I wouldn't do it that way. I don't like how why did you, Mm-hmm. But when you add somebody who's so fragile and chaotic in their, how they display their disability, that first year, man, we had the ambulance at our house every 3 weeks, just because it was he'd go into these 18-minute seizures. Our seizure plan required, after we'd given so much rescue medication, we had to have EMTs involved just because we didn't know how his body would respond to that much rescue medication. And so it was we're both trying to also balance jobs. Cory was in the middle of a job change when all of this happened. He was at the same church, but he was moving to a different campus. And I'm trying to... I had just taken this maternity leave from my job, and it was I'm back also. Everything's exploding. So thankfully they were super gracious with me and let me go take my thousands of appointments to figure out stuff with Elin. So anyway, that definitely added a lot of stress. Mm-hmm. And I think in that season, we had to figure out like what our philosophy of care was. Like we learned that for me, I still believed very wholeheartedly that there was a magic doctor wand. All we had to do was take the sick child to the doctor. The doctor would wave the wand. The child would be better. So my MO was always like, we've got to go to the hospital. We've got to go to the doctor. And Cory's like, they're not going to do anything. Like, we've been to the ER several times now, and all they do is say, let us know if it gets worse, and they send us home, you know? And that just kept happening over and over again. So, like, trying to align on, like, ER level decisions every 3 weeks, like, that can cause some tension for sure.
I can imagine, I mean, I can't imagine, but I can think that, it would seem like when couples experience this, there's going to be the couples that it makes them stronger. And there's going to be the couples that this tears them apart. And maybe you've seen it in some of the circles that you've been in, because you're like way more in those
spheres.
Yeah, way more in those spheres. What kept y'all from pulling apart?
Honestly, I think there's a lot of grace in our story. Like, I think I don't know, that just was never an option. We'd fight, we'd have big blow up fights, but like separating or divorce was not one of the, it was like, well, how are we gonna, you know, move forward together? And I don't know that's because any amount of like willpower on our part, or we're just so in love. Like, I feel like just a lot of like, I don't know, the Lord was really gracious with us and like gave us what we needed for that day. To work through those different decisions, and kept us together, kept us at the table. I think we learned early on in our marriage, like, to stay in the same room, to not just like, I remember trying to storm off one time and was like, no, this doesn't work for healthy marriage. I think keeping short accounts has been really helpful for us. Not letting things fester, not letting things linger. I'm not necessarily saying like, let's figure it out at bedtime when everybody's tired and grouchy, but not letting things go more than like 24 hours before you've like talked about it, addressed it again, tried to see the other person's viewpoint. And that's just little things like that have been really helpful for us to try and like, we still disagree. We disagree on a lot of things. But I think that's helped us kind of navigate through those. Okay, what you're saying makes sense. I guess I'll go with what you want to do. You know?
Learn to compromise, give and take.
Yeah, absolutely.
I can imagine with the amount of the stress and emotions involved with all of this, that there's temptation for like escapism behaviors.
Yeah.
How have y'all kept, and I thought of this when you said like, we come back to it instead of like escaping, or instead of leaving, or instead of whatever, like we come back to it. How have you, like, have there been any, was that a part of your story where it was like, man, it would be so much easier to do this thing to escape, whatever that is. But no, I'm going to make this intentional decision to like go do the hard thing.
I wish I could take credit. I really do. I think it speaks to Cory's skill sets, like around this. I am very much the brooder. I will sit and feel icy for a long time. I'll hold on to things. And he's always been really good about coming alongside me and being like, hey, you seem upset. Let's talk. You know, we had a couple in our church teach us. Have you ever talked about FANO? FANO. So it's an evening check-in, or do it every day. We fall in and out of this, but FANO has been a really sweet way to just clear the air. So it's feelings, affirm, need, own. So you come in to the conversation, it can be 15 minutes. This is what I'm feeling. Like, I'm feeling frustrated because my boss was an absolute jerk today and screamed at me. I'm feeling tightly wound right now. Just kind of helps disarm the other person. They're like, oh, you're not mad at me. You're carrying something else into this conversation. Affirm. What can I affirm about something in you? Like, I affirm that you sat and played, Go Fish with JoJo last night. Thank you for taking time for him. What do I need? I need to sit on the couch and be left alone for a little bit. Like, I just need, or I need you to help with the kids, or I need help with dishes or something. And I own whatever, like where I know I've been wrong. And having him come to me and say, here's what I need to own, and he can say it better than I was rehearsing it in my head, just de-escalates the situation for me almost every time, where it's like, oh no, you do understand. I don't need to explain to you the 18 ways you've made me angry. You already see it and you've owned it. And it just takes the temperature way down. So that was something that we, I think there was an elder couple in our last church that taught us that. And that's been really helpful for keeping those short accounts, keeping those regular conversations. Those regular check-ins.
Yeah.
So things can't fester.
I love that.
It's really good.
It is really good. I was talking with my dad today about felt security, as we do, which is
You guys sound fun.
super fun. We were talking about attachment theory.
Okay.
And, but it's what you're describing, which is humans are made to depend on someone else. Like, it's how God created us at the beginning. Like, I'm going to make a helper for you. So we're designed to need someone else, not like more than God, but like this is what marriage is. But we need to know that person is going to be there for us no matter what. So when Cory comes to you and is like, here's what I'll own, you feel seen and like he's there for you no matter what. So it's just like increasing your security in the relationship. And same when you do that to him, like it's increasing your security, which makes you stronger and allows you to like endure more chaos and storms. Yeah.
It just helps you give more benefit of the doubt for the next time, where it's like, okay, I can trust you to be self-aware, to see when you've done something wrong. You can also trust you that you see when I'm working extra hard in that like affirmation portion, like you see it. So it just keeps building that foundation of trust, so that when he does something and I'm like, how could you? It's not, and I mean, I still struggle with like giving him the benefit of the doubt. I have not arrived. Sure. But like I think it definitely helps. Yeah. For the next fight.
Yeah. And so now Elin is 7.5.
Yeah.
And you have JoJo, your 4-year-old, and you're pregnant. Surprise. How, like, as you've processed through knowing the diagnosis and parenting, and I mean, now this is just your normal rhythm of life. Yeah. What's your relationship been like with God, where it went from God, why didn't you give me my first 2 babies? Oh God, thank you so much for my amazing
next 2 babies. Yeah.
And then so it's like, and why, like, God, why this? Yeah. Were you mad at God?
I think so. And it's in seasons, right? Like I'll go through seasons of where it's like, okay, this is just our norm, and you compartmentalize and you go. But there are other seasons where it's like, to what end? Like, how long are we going to do this? Like he's drooling himself, he's peeing to his knees, or he's pooping to his armpits. Like he's having seizures every single day, like at some point you're just like, this is the good plan. This like it definitely ebbs and flows. And I think I went through one of those seasons at the beginning of this year where it was just like, what's your plan here, man? Like, what are we doing? And again, like, I don't have this beautiful bow on top where he's like, and here's the master plan. He hasn't shown me that yet. I'm still sitting in a lot of the already, but not yet. I'm watching him, though, like, meet me in this season. He's surrounded us with people and with care and with support. He brought us to Tennessee. I had, a medical team. I had an amazing educational team, like his school team. I had everything set up in Illinois, and he just uprooted our family and brought us here. And in that process, about 2 years ago, he met us in ways that I could not have anticipated, could not have asked for, didn't even think to ask for. Like, I am so much more supported and cared for now in the last 2 years than I ever was in Illinois. And so it's like, okay, God, you have us here. You have Elin still with us. I don't know. I don't have a nice, and here's why. Like, we're still sitting in it. And maybe it's for stuff like this. Maybe it's to walk alongside other families. Again, that feels trite to just be like, it's so I can shepherd the next crew, like, I don't know. But, yeah, but he's also been steady and faithful in the not the minute details, but like, he's not fixing the big, hairy, audacious thing in the middle. But gosh, he's been so active in the periphery around that. He's been surrounding us as we carry this big, Elin burden, that I don't know. I'm curious to see how he moves us through it and what the other side does look like, whether that's Elin healed and well and like miraculously gets to be one of our boys, or we do lose him and we walk through the grief of losing him, but he is made well on the other side of this life, like where he gets to experience what is good and what is whole, before the rest of us do. Like, I don't have that buttoned up yet.
Yeah.
But
do you and Cory process some of that at times? Do y'all like talk about that?
Yeah.
All of the, like, I don't even know, all of it.
Like what do you mean?
Like, what is the future with Elin, and how are we going to navigate through these next stages and certain things? And
yeah, I'm so frightened of puberty. I'm so like, that was one of the first things we saw when we came into this, world, was a mom and her daughter, and they had the daughter on puberty blockers because it was trashing her epilepsy. As soon as it's like a full restart for some of these kids, where you'd had them on these different medications and, whatever. So like that, I think that frightens me. I think it is a daunting idea, and it feels horrible, but like to care for a fully immobilized, fully disabled adult. Like, there's so much more support right now, like from the state, from the school system, from whatever, for children. Like, I get in-home nursing at night, which has been an absolute game changer. That's one of the ways the Lord's been really caring for us in this season, is like, we get to sleep at night. Elin doesn't sleep great. And as soon as they turn, I think it's like 18 or 21, your hours get cut for a lot of these kids. They don't, or then they're adults. You know what I mean? Like, just the support changes. Drops way off. And so like, I was talking to a mom who had a son very much like Elin a few days ago, actually, and she lost him when he was 9. And she was like, I ache for him. I would do anything to be able to like hold him and kiss his little cheeks again and like love him. But just like we can't like keep people captive, like our children, like, you can't leave my house because I love you so much. Like, that's not good. She's like, I don't wish him back for his own sake. I don't wish him back into a chair 24/7, unable to see, unable to speak, unable to, or having seizures all the time. She's like, I do love him. And because I love him, I'm thankful that he's free from, what he had been living in. And like, that's a really hard thing to wrestle with as a mom, because you're supposed to be like, no, I will fight until the very 100%. End. But there's like that Yeah. Well, where you just start holding things a lot more open-handedly to be like, okay, God, like I don't want that, but also I love him and I don't want him to be as miserable as he's not miserable. I shouldn't say it that way, but like, I want what's good for him. I want him to be well and to be whole and things. So yeah, it definitely leads you into some more existential conversations. And we do talk about that stuff. And I appreciate that about Cory, that I think he's probably 10 steps ahead of me usually when we have these conversations. And it just takes me longer to kind of parse through a lot of those thoughts and feelings and like, okay, now what do we do with that? He's a lot more Spockish than I am. I married Spock. It's great. But that's been really helpful. Like to be married to somebody who I don't know, can just get like parse through that a lot quicker. I don't know. He's been much more the leader in this like emotional journey.
Yeah.
Which has been really good.
How has having Elin and loving Elin changed what you think about love?
I think kind of like what I was saying, what my friend said before, where it's like love is so, at least love for Elin looks a lot different than for my other kids. For my other kids, that love is reciprocal. I get those, dopamine hits of them saying, Mom, I love you, or like hugs or kisses. But for Elin, so much of our love is very one way. He doesn't know my face. He knows my voice and he'll semi-respond to it. But that love, like seeing the Imago Dei in Elin, I think is what kind of pushes us to fight hard for him, and we adore him. He is the sweetest little guy. He's probably my most obedient child, 100%. He's, a delight. But I think that is something that we've learned in having him is like, oh, love isn't always reciprocal. Sometimes love is very one way. And is kind of like a good image of the way the Father loves us, the way Christ loves us is like, there's a lot of one-way love that we don't reciprocate back. I think he's kind of drawn us into that picture a little bit more deeply.
I love that. I love that. That's super powerful. I don't know that there's any person in my life that I could say like I've had a one-way love towards them. Right?
Yeah.
There's always something reciprocal about it.
Yeah, right.
How beautiful though. I think that unlocks a deeper level of love. Like you probably know how to love in a way different way than I know how to love because you've done it without expecting anything back necessarily from it. But like you do it daily. Consistently. Yeah. You want to. And you do it because you want to, not because you have to. And I think that's
well, and please hear me. Elin is magnetic. Like he goes nowhere without people being like, you are amazing. He's got quite the following. We've got this little Facebook page for him and people just like, they've never met him before and they already adore him, So it is both and he is a darling.
Yes. Yes, he is. But also,
sure. Yeah. Yes.
But also, you are doing hard things too.
Thank you.
How do you make time for yourself and for your marriage with all the kids?
I have so many kids.
So many kids.
So many of
More
them.
Coming.
More, dear Lord.
You have like
so many
neighbor kids that I see you hauling around sometimes.
Yes. Oh my goodness. It's a farm.
Do you have chickens? You have chickens.
I have chickens. I have a dog. I have a cat. If you want a dog or a cat, I will share a dog and cat. We just offloaded 9 hens and 2 roosters. So
how do you
6 hens and 2 roosters.
Okay, now really, how do you do all this?
No, it's great fun. I recommend chickens to everybody. They're so low maintenance and they eat all of your kitchen scraps. They're just like little garbage disposals. And
they're like your compost.
And they're snuggly. There's one of our chickens. No, please hear me. One of our chickens is very snuggly. Anytime Cory comes home, she comes running up on the deck, just to him. Not to the rest of us, just him. She'll come running up onto the deck and like ask to be picked up. It is the trippiest thing. Anyway.
That is amazing.
BB the chicken is just the best. Yeah, no, I don't know. I was very nice getting rid of the roosters. To a kind farm.
Yes, right.
Where they're living their best life.
Right. No one has eaten them.
Nobody's eaten them. They're very fine. It's okay.
All is good. All is good.
What was your question?
How do you have the time to take care of yourself and your marriage?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of factors there. I think Cory and I are both homebodies. So we do like two things. We work and we have our kids. And that's pretty much it. There's not like golf and shopping and things, you know, like we're kind of just, we've kept things pretty close to home. And I think Cory and I specifically, like we just enjoy each other's company. Like he is my best friend. I tell him everything. He tells me, I think everything. Like we just love to sit and talk to each other, which really helps. Like I want to spend time with him. I honestly, like part of God's immense grace to us in this move is we've gotten, our backyard neighbors have become like surrogate grandparents and like nobody's replacing their regular grandparents. Please hear me. But,
of course.
But gosh, they're the ones watching my kids right now, so I can be here.
It's amazing.
Know, they love Elin. They ask for Elin. They ask for the other boys to come visit, you know, like, so we never had that in Illinois. I had a young woman who would nanny for me. And if she wasn't available, like I wasn't available, you know, because our moms were out of state in Illinois too. Sometimes my mom would drive down from Wisconsin, but like, so I think having those people in our life who are fighting for us to have a date nights, fighting for us to go away, being creative about date nights where it's not like I have to leave the house and I have to do XYZ. It's like, well, maybe this week date night is put the kids to bed and we have a glass of wine. Well, had a glass of wine.
Of water.
A glass of water.
But the wine.
Yeah. Or, you know, we'll do stuff like that. Try and be intentional. The Fano's been super helpful. We recently have started doing screen-free nights with the kids where it's like, okay, Mondays and Wednesdays, we're screen-free. So last night was Monday and we sat and Cory and JoJo played Go Fish and I worked on this baby's quilt.
Aww.
And Keller.
Have you done a quilt for every baby?
Yeah. Where
That's
you sit
amazing.
and you pray over.
Aww.
Yeah, it's been so good. It's been so good. I'm getting better at quilting. Keller's was pretty bad.
You've had four. This is your fourth one.
This is my fourth quilt. So I'm, you know, it's still B-, but you know, we're making improvements. So I was doing that and Keller was bopping around and Elin was sitting by. It was just really sweet family time. And so, yeah, just keeping our sphere small, keeping few irons in the fire, I think has been really helpful for us to juggle the chickens and the chickens and the kids and the jobs and the things, you know.
And the dog and the cat.
And the dog and well, we might just, if you want, again, very cheerfully gift you the dog and the cat. But
you are looking to offload.
That's right.
Yeah. I think that makes a ton of sense. Like, do less things better.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And what's more important than your family?
Yeah. That's been really helpful.
In all of this, have you ever doubted that God existed?
Oh, not existed. Maybe his kindness. For sure. There have been times where I'm like, what are we even doing here? Like, but I think he'll let me have my tantrum, you know, like punch a wall, kick a floor. Like he'll let me scream my things. And then he'll usher me very kindly back into his grace, very kindly back into his goodness in some way. It is rarely him fixing the big, ugly thing that I'm screaming about. But he'll meet me again in that periphery, in the things surrounding that, saying, I've cared for everything around you. Trust me, with the big hairy thing too.
Do you ever still have that like vision or anticipation or longing of like, God, what's next? I'll move. Like, let's just move
back to the
everything.
jungles?
Yeah.
Elizabeth Elliot and I, we're just conquering the world. I did actually this last summer. I was, my youngest is coming up on 4 on preschool. I've got, my older 2 are in full-time school. I was, I'm an accountant by trade. So I was like, man, I'd love to do something else. And so I was like, God, what do you want to do with me? What's next? Like, will I start writing about Elin? Will I start doing, what do you want from me? And then so like,
seems to be a theme.
I know. I keep being like, God, I'm going to do these big things for you. And then like, he's like
kids.
Yeah. But I think he ushered me very tenderly back into motherhood. I think I was ready to move on to the next stage where my kids were a little bit more independent. And he was like, nope, I'm going to keep you very squarely in this sphere with a very new baby. Elin's functionally a 6-month-old, but I think my kids are still little and they do still need me. And this has been him kind of gently redirecting me. And I still get to do fun stuff like this where like I get to talk about Elin and like hopefully encourage other families that are walking through things, a similar story. But in this next season, I'm not going to be working anymore. Just going to be mom. And I'm actually excited about that now. I think last summer me was like, I will write and I will do things. And I'm excited for this next season of just being mom.
I love that.
Yeah.
What are the like key things you would tell someone listening who is also parenting with a difficult situation, like a special needs child? They feel overwhelmed, tired, unheard.
Yeah.
Does God see me?
Yeah.
What would you say to that person?
I would say, I'm so sorry. The same thing that somebody said to me, I'm so sorry that you're part of this club. There are a lot of amazing people in the club, but nobody wants to be here. I think it's really easy in this sphere to go like racing ahead. And I know people always say, take it one day at a time, but genuinely, we get grace for today. We don't get grace for 3 years from now. Take today, live in today, make decisions for today. I think where I get the most existential or angry or agitated is when I'm like running into all the different hypotheticals. Like, what if this happens? What if this happens? What if he can't? What if he won't? What if they don't? And I don't need to be making those decisions. I don't need to be going through those emotional exercises of like, what ifs. I need to deal with what is, and I need to stay there. Now, like, please hear me. There are things you do need to plan in advance for, and you do need to like actually, figure out what school you're going to go to and things. But giving those things down the road any emotional energy before they actually exist, I think is what drains people in this world. Living in that fear, living in the unknowns. So just remembering to keep yourself emotionally in today and only today. And to remember that I think a lot of times, especially in the West, we are promised a very different bill of goods than what God actually promises. I think a lot of times we come into this going like, God is for me, and therefore he's going to do what I want him to do, and therefore things are going to go well for me. And sometimes that is true. Things do go well for us, and things are good, and it's because of his goodness and kindness. But sometimes he walks us through dark, dark seasons. And that is very much part of the Christian story. It is not just from mountaintop to mountaintop. There's a lot of valley time. And remembering that like his goodness goes with us. It doesn't save us from things. It goes with us. His presence is what matters. I think that's what I would encourage people with. And find people. Mm-hmm. Find people who are walking it with you. Like, I think that this community has always been so welcoming to me. Like, I found people on Instagram because those were the only people walking through stuff like this that I could find. Mm-hmm. And those relationships have actually turned out to be really healing because they get it.
Yeah.
Don't do it alone.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
I just always love talking to you.
Yeah, this is fun.
I always go away from it like I have learned so much and laughed so hard. And I think the combination is what makes you such a wonderful person.
Thank you, Brent. I appreciate that.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I think it's really, this episode, I believe, is really going to help a lot of people who need it. And I appreciate you sharing, being vulnerable, being open, seeing hope in the situation and wanting to share that with others. So thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.